Good afternoon, everyone. It is 5 after 1, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. I will now call to order the November 16, 2017 regular meeting of the City of Rancho Mirage City Council, Library Board, Housing Authority Board, and the City Council representing the redevelopment successor agencies. Please rise for the flag salute. Iris, will you please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have the roll call, please, Chrissy?
Of course, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Hobart?
Here.
Councilmember Smotrich? Here. Councilmember Weil?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Kite?
Here.
And Mayor Townsend.
Here. Now we will move to non-agenda public comments. This is the opportunity for the public to speak on items that are not on the agenda. As a reminder, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please begin by stating your name and the city of which you reside. And we are going to start with Owen McIntosh.
Good afternoon, Your Honors. Let me start off by sharing with you my appreciation for your donation of the nets for our tennis courts at Rancho Mirage High School. As you may know, I'm the tennis coach there for boys and girls, and you guys have helped us over the last 3 years to develop what is probably the premier tennis program in the Valley. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it is the premier tennis program in the Valley. And we owe a great deal of that to you. You have purchased our kiosks that render shade for the kids, and now our tennis courts, our nets, which have rendered our courts in immaculate condition, and we thank you very much for that. I'm not here for that, though, however. What I'm here for is that Rosie Casals, Hall of Fame member, has developed the Love and Love Foundation, which is a foundation which sponsors events for junior tennis throughout the Valley. And in doing that, she has come up with another program for free tennis clinics given to children in the very beginning stages of the game, 4 to 10. And she has one currently running. I'm sent out a flyer for you to look at that's over at the Monterey Tennis Club. She has asked that I try to establish a program starting in late January or February and use what I refer to as the whitewater courts. It may be renamed by now, and I apologize if I'm not using the correct facility. But in any event, what we would like to do is one night a week for approximately 2 to 3 months, run a free tennis clinic from 5 o'clock to 6:30 in the evening, typically on a Saturday evening, and use your courts over there, 2, maybe 3 at most. And it'll all be pro bono. I'm going to run the academy, and we hope that you would join us in extending that opportunity to the kids in this community. So that's my pitch, and again, we won't have specifics for another few weeks, and I understand that there is a process that needs to be gone through, and we would just appreciate it if you would consider that and let me know in due course. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Owen. Any questions?
Just a big congratulations on your team's finish this year. 1 point short from winning it all like last year, which you did win it all. So 2 years in a row, outstanding. I don't think there's any other team that's done that by moving up in rank too. So congratulations to you.
In fact, it's never happened before. I did the research, but we appreciate it. Thank you.
Your girls did a great job, and hopefully next year you'll bring it back again.
Well, you never know, but we certainly aren't going to count on it. But thank you very much.
Well, good luck.
Before you leave, Owen, our courts, as you know, we have 4 tennis courts.
Correct.
2 pickleballs, and you're not interested in the pickleball courts.
I am not.
You said that you would like to have access to 2 or 3 of the courts. With respect to that number, can we mix and match during the course of, how many days altogether do you?
Only 1 day a week for that 2 to 3 month period, depending upon signups.
So I presume you're more interested in 3 days than 2, but you can make it with 2?
Certainly. We could do, what I don't want to do is put you in the position where residents come down to the facility and there's no court for them to play on.
Right, well, we want to avoid that too, and that's
Right.
why it was, if we did it 2 courts,
I would be perfectly content with 2 courts.
and that would meet your needs.
Correct.
For the team.
And it may be even better because there is a dividing area between the 2 banks of courts, which would then require that I police. And with young children, I may not want to do that.
Could you leave your phone number with the clerk, and maybe Randy, you could contact
Sure.
Mr. McIntosh and try to work something out where they can get those 2 or 3 days on Saturday, 2 or 3 courts on Saturdays for the couple of months that he needs them.
Yes, absolutely, Councilman. I think your point is that we want to make sure that tennis courts are always available for the public at a public park.
I understand.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have Mr. Richard Loftus. Hi, Richard.
Or Doctor. Good afternoon, Mayor Townsend and City Council members. I'm Richard Loftus. I've lived in Rancho Mirage for the last 6 years. I'm a physician and professor of medicine at Eisenhower Medical Center, where I helped set up the internal medicine residency program. I'm also a medical scientist and an AIDS researcher, and have founded 2 research offices in the Valley. I'm here this afternoon to propose that Rancho Mirage revise its city code to allow backyard beekeeping. I advocate this for multiple reasons. Like many physicians and scientists, I'm a longtime beekeeper, but have not kept bees since I moved to the Valley in 2010. As you know, Southern California has a problem with Africanized honeybees, whose occasional attacks can result in injury and even death to people, pets, or livestock. When I moved here 6 years ago, I discussed the need for beekeeping regulations with then Mayor Scott Hines. I told him the City Hall workers had taken a week to get back to me to tell me that there were no regulations, and since there were no regulations, it was banned. He laughed and said to come meet with him and we could draft some regulations, but I got busy with the residency setup and held off. I've learned since then Rancho Mirage has actually formally banned backyard hives. I'm not sure why, but I can only guess it has some misguided belief that this would keep citizens safe from Africanized bees. In fact, many neighboring cities, including LA and San Diego, face the same exact situation we do, and that is what prompted those cities to create intelligent rules promoting backyard beekeeping in their cities. 3 minutes is not a lot of time to review the science of this, but in short, research in neighboring San Diego County has shown that most wild honeybees we encounter in our neighborhoods are indeed Africanized. On the other hand, almost no backyard beehives are Africanized because they are managed scientifically to prevent problems, including the problem of Africanization. Last year, my Eisenhower colleague, Dr. Dan Olesnicki, an ER physician, helped pass regulations for backyard hives in Palm Desert. Rancho Mirage Senior City Planner Jeremy Glimes reviewed those regulations with me and agreed they were quite comprehensive. Since the passage of their rules, Palm Desert tells me they've had no increase in bee-related complaints or problems with their regulations. Having hobbyist beekeepers in Rancho Mirage would increase the presence of people who are knowledgeable about preventing and handling bee-related problems in our neighborhoods. The Palm Desert regulations that I suggest we adopt in Rancho Mirage are well written and designed to ensure backyard hives do not present a nuisance to neighbors, quite the opposite. Last month, I presented my proposal to the Rancho Mirage Community Association. They voted overwhelmingly to support my proposal. On Nextdoor, I have found about 75% of neighbors strongly support this proposal outright, 10 to 15% have questions, and only 10 to 15% oppose it. I have already had 2 local doctors ask me to set up hives in their yard if regulations are passed. I will already be installing beehives in Palm Desert where it is legal, and hope after the first year to involve college students and high school students as apprentice beekeepers to assist with managing hives. In this way, backyard beekeeping would increase dialogue between local youth and older neighbors, and so be community building. I'd like to do that not just in Palm Desert, but in Rancho Mirage, which is my home. Rancho Mirage is known for its fiscally sensible policies. I would hope it would also be managed with scientifically sensible policies. I have copies of my letter, the proposal, the regulations from Palm Desert, and the letter from Rancho Mirage Community Association, and I would welcome a chance to talk about this further with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. I do believe that the city is looking into allowing this in Rancho Mirage. So they are working on it. And I did read the letter.
Oh,
and
thank
it's
you.
very well done. So
Thank
I
you.
think we're looking in on it. Thank you. Randy, any other questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Last week, Dana and I had an opportunity to meet with Jeremy regarding this item. And one of the suggestions that we had was to put together a number of ordinances and take a look at them and see how it might be appropriate for our city based on what some of the other cities have done in this area. So I think the letter was very well done, stated your case, and I think it'd be worthwhile if we moved on it and looked at some additional alternatives.
Very, very good. Randy, you have anything more?
Yes, you said you met with the community, Rancho Mirage Community Organization. Specifically, what organization is that?
The Rancho Mirage Community Association is the homeowners association for the southern part of Rancho Mirage.
Well, is it one particular HOA you met with?
Yes, it represents 545 households in southern Rancho Mirage. That's the community association I belong to.
Okay, so it's the
Nag
Nag
Falls.
Falls HOA.
Right.
Okay.
Very good.
And you're saying that they were supportive of your position?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Yes. Steve?
In my neighborhood in another city, I'm known as the accidental beekeeper. And so I get at least 2 hives. I always have 2 hives, and I leave them there. But there is an organization, there's a business called Killer Bee, and they don't kill the bees. And they come and take the queen and the drones, they put it in a box, and they take it to Glen Oaks, where they grow the apples. And there's a company in Thousand Palms that uses the honey for beer. So if you have bees, Killer Bee will remove your bees. They don't kill them.
And they don't kill them. Okay.
Can I ask,
Yeah.
where did Dr.
There, Doctor, you want to come up?
You're the authority, and so we get a chance to get some real information, perhaps. What is the trend, the current trend? Is it still a declining trend of living bees in America?
Yes.
Or have they changed that? What is the effort
It's an
underway
excellent
to
question.
change that?
So all of our pollinator species are in trouble. Honeybees, in particular, in the last 10 years, have had about a tripling of their die-off. So the overall population has been struggling with infections and effects of pesticides. So the overall honeybee population in the United States is worsening, declining over time. There's been some improvement in that situation because of many neighborhood backyard beekeepers, creating more hives. So that's corrected so the descent is not as steep as it used to be. But certainly in the commercial beekeepers, they've had very steep die-offs, which challenges their ability to render pollination services, of course.
So we're doing ourselves a big favor. The more bees
I would
we
say
have,
so. I mean, it's
the
not a
better
coincidence
our-
that many cities lately have been passing laws to promote this. And I think as a public health official and as someone whose team has treated people with bee sting events, I think there's a safety issue that can be promoted by having more beekeepers in the neighborhoods. We can't control the presence of the Africanized bees, they're just there. But the backyard hives, I think the science has shown, are not Africanized. And if you have backyard bees, then the likelihood that any bee you encounter is the well-behaved type is higher, obviously, because you maintain a more benign type of bee in your neighborhoods.
I've read in a few places about the effect on pollination, the decline in bee activity and the number of bees, the gross total number of bees, and how that is affecting some crops very significantly and is projected to get worse, not better.
That's right. That's right.
So you're fighting that trend.
Yes, we're trying to.
Good to hear it.
Thank you.
Doctor, have you actually raised bees yourself?
Yes, I kept hives when I lived in Northern California. Yeah.
Thanks for being here
You make
today.
pets out of any of them?
How do
Never
you-
mind, Your Honor, I withdraw the question.
How do you select the location? What is the process?
Yeah,
And
so
is there
a backyard hive needs to be kept away from the property line, and that allows an avoidance of bees being bothersome to neighbors. The Palm Desert rules sensibly limit the number of hives to 2. Most beekeepers in a backyard would want at most 2, but 2 is preferable because if there's a problem with one, you can actually use materials from the other one to help the hive that's having a problem. There has to be a water source so that the bees don't go looking at a swimming pool for water. In fact, swimming pools are a good way for bees to drown, so having a little watering hole that's designed for the bees is a better idea anyway for the bees, and it keeps them away from bothering people. So keeping them in the center of the yard. There's other aspects in terms of making sure they don't get overheated and don't present a hazard to neighbors, but basically you just keep them away from the walls and give them a water source. And they're wild animals. They mostly look after themselves. One interesting aspect of having backyard hives is there's a story, the White House has a garden and they recently put beehives in, and they have an old tree that I guess was donated 100 or 200 years ago to the White House lawn that was an apple tree that wasn't having any apples, and after they put in the backyard hive there, they started having apples again after many years of nothing. So it sort of speaks to the idea that if you have pollinators around, the plants do better.
On the existing program, do they have a radius or a distance as far as approval of neighbors are concerned? Do they take a poll? What is the process of picking a location and then getting a concurrence from neighbors?
I think the main thing is you want to make sure that neighbors are aware that there's a hive in place, just so that you can answer any questions and just make people aware. I think that's the main thing. Backyard hives don't usually present a hazard. Africanized hives, on the other hand, can get a little territorial, and they're the ones that really pose, I think, the hazard to attacking pets that wander too close or people that by accident wander too close. For many years, I gave a lecture on bee safety at one of the local elementary schools, and I talked to the kids about not approaching wild hives because they're probably Africanized and they're not friendly. But the idea with backyard hives is that you maintain the genetics so that they are the normal sort of garden bees that are not looking for trouble. But in terms of the radius, all bees will wander as far as 3 miles away from their hive. So all of the bees that we encounter in our gardens have flown there from probably a mile or 2 away. I think where it gets difficult is the area around the hive and how territorial the bees behave. And this is why the rules are to prevent Africanization, so that those bees are tolerant and don't present a hazard. That's also why you keep it away from the property line, so they're not thinking the next door neighbor's yard is their territory. Yeah.
Randy, my motivation, of course, is like on any of our projects where we have a certain radius or number of homes that have the opportunity to comment, whether it's bee building or anything else. If we set up this program, would we give the same opportunity to neighbors to be aware of this kind of a program?
Yes, Councilman. So pursuant to the doctor's letter, and I didn't read the letter, but I watched the movie.
Okay.
The staff is working on an ordinance. We're taking into consideration the one that you quoted from Palm Desert, as well as took directions from the subcommittee to collect ordinances from other cities so we can synthesize something that is appropriate for Rancho Mirage.
Yes.
Each city is different. That's why we're incorporated, and
For sure.
Some rules are appropriate in one location, not another. So
Absolutely.
yes, we'll put that together. To answer your question, the ordinance would be a public hearing, so yes, the neighbors would have an opportunity to weigh in prior to city council.
If I can just comment, there's an ethos amongst beekeepers to be good neighbors. In fact, the tradition is the first time you get honey from a hive, you give it to your neighbors. And that's the tradition. So there is this unspoken rule that it's important to be good neighbors.
Just one additional question. Is there a minimum lot size required?
I don't think they describe a minimum lot size, but I might be wrong. I think it might be, I'm confusing the chicken rules and the bee rules. I know the chicken rules do describe the lot size. I can't remember if it mentions lot size in the regulations, but it does say that a backyard could not have more than 2 hives, which I think is quite reasonable.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, Iris, that's a very good point. I think we should look at lot sizes.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Doctor. Appreciate it. Now we're going to hear from Virginia Nelson from the Rancho Mirage Chamber of Commerce. Hi, Virginia.
Good afternoon, Mayor Townsend and council members. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to give you your brief update on your Chamber of Commerce. We continue to be very busy, of course, with ribbon cuttings and other events. In the month of October, we added another 6 members to our roles, and we continue to grow every month. Tomorrow, the rink at the river is opening again. We will be hosting a joint ribbon cutting with other Valley Chambers of Commerce and their sponsor, Renova Solar. That takes place at 10 o'clock. As you know, the rink was a big hit last year, so we look forward to another successful year of ice skating in the desert.
Now, they've made it bigger this year, correct? Did
I
you hear
don't
that?
know the answer to that, but I'll be there tomorrow to find that out.
Good. I'm sure they did make it bigger this year.
Yeah.
Right.
Next Tuesday, on the 21st of November, our monthly mixer is going to be hosted by Classic Creations by Debbie Lee. That event is from 5 until 7 p.m., and that is a holiday-themed event. This has become a very popular annual tradition. It's very well attended. There is food and beverage sampling, some great holiday gift ideas, so we hope to see you all there. Our Business Over Breakfast series this month is on Wednesday, the 29th. That's at Cambria on El Paseo. And in keeping with current events, the topic on this one will be sexual harassment in the workplace. That will be presented by local attorney Alex Reed, and he works with the law firm of Karen Sloat. That's held from 7:30 to 9 a.m. All are invited to join us. We just ask for an RSVP, which can be done either through the Chamber website or calling the Chamber office. We have a subcommittee who's been working on our annual Rammy Awards. That's coming up on January 29th, and of course we're expecting another fantastic event on that one. We have a nominating committee that's been working on directors for any vacant board seats and potential alternates. Ballots will be going out soon before the end of the year to membership. And we are very happy with our board of directors. We continue to have a very strong and actively working board. And that's really about it, unless there's questions.
Very good. I think Sean knows about the ice rink. Is it going to be bigger? Yeah, a little bit bigger. Yeah. And where are you holding the Rammies?
Agua Caliente at the show.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very good.
it was a big success last year.
Thank you, Virginia.
All right, well, we appreciate the continued partnership and support of the City Council and the staff of the city, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that did not fill out a card that wishes to speak at this time? All right, seeing none.
Charlie, are you going to have your skates on tomorrow?
I'm trying to get my skates on, but I think my feet have spread just a little bit, and my ankles have gotten a little weaker. But other than that, I'll try. I'll try. Thank you, Richard. Okay. Andy?
Mr. Mayor, on your agenda is an item for Darla Burkett to make
Yes.
a presentation on the Coachella Valley Rescue Mission. I don't think she's here today, but it is on the agenda, so we can reschedule that for a future meeting.
We will do that. Thank you. All right, then we'll move on then. I will close that part of the meeting and move on to the council comments. And I will start first. The 17th Annual Art Affair took place at the Rancho Mirage Community Park on Saturday, November the 4th, and Sunday, November the 5th. Over 75 artists displayed their artworks and crafts for purchase. Paintings, drawings, sculptures, ceramics, jewelry, glass and apparel, and much more were featured in this event, which kicked off the Valley's festival season. Many cities and organizations were represented at this annual community event, and patrons were able to head over to the beautiful state-of-the-art amphitheater for exceptional jazz performances in our park. I also had the honor and the privilege to welcome Mayor Sylviane from Tahiti, French Polynesian, and the group of Ti'ani Hutas to Rancho Mirage. They traveled from the islands to perform at the Taste of Tahiti in Coachella Valley, and I believe this was a first for them. Taste of Tahiti is a nonprofit organization founded by a group of young people from the island who wanted to share their passion for their culture through their dance, music, and their food. On October the 20th, their mayor, along with a delegation visiting our city hall here, I had the pleasure of welcoming them, exchanging gifts, and experiencing a fantastic performance by dancers and drummers performed a ceremonial chant, followed by a dance and drum routine highlighting the French Polynesian islands. It was unbelievable. It was just absolutely spectacular. Rancho Mirage got to experience their own taste of Tahiti. People came to enjoy a full day of dancing, music, workshops, and many more fun activities focused on the Tahitian culture. As well as a dinner was hosted at the Hilton Garden Inn here in Rancho Mirage. This was indeed one-of-a-kind cultural experiences that I personally will not forget. The Tahitian culture was beautifully displayed, and I look forward to hopefully having them back again next year. So that's the end of my council comments, and I'm going to turn it over to the rest of my colleagues, starting with Mr. Richard Kite.
Thank you, Charlie. Where was your grass skirt? I missed it. You look good, though.
Thank you very much.
Well, as you can tell, it's really been busy here in the city over the last few weeks, in addition to the art fair and the various performances we've seen. We also had the Veterans program done, so it's really been busy. Today I'm here to tell you a little bit about some of the other programs that are coming up, and mainly the ones that are being planned by the Cultural Commission. And they've been working on the programs for a good year now. And so I'd like to begin by telling you about the first one that's going to come about on Wednesday, December 6th. It's vocalist Gerald Colucci, and he'll perform a tribute to Jerry Vale and the Great Italians of Song. The performance begins at 7 p.m. in the Rancho Mirage Library Community Room. Again, that's December 6th, so that's coming up pretty quickly. Following that presentation is Lenore Raphael, who's a jazz pianist, and she'll be with vocalist Jack Wood, and they'll present and perform an evening of Cole Porter. This should really be a lot of fun. The performance will begin at 7 p.m., also in the Rancho Mirage Library Community Room. Following this performance, we're going to have a program entitled A Tribute to Dick Clark and American Bandstand. And this is really going to be a great event. We're going to work on everybody coming dressed for the 60s with their poodle skirts and their white shoes and their bobby socks. And a prize will be given for the best male and female. And the event will also be held in the library community room, begins at 7 p.m. We've got some real special things for this event, and all of you who grew up with American Bandstand will have a great time at this event. On Saturday, March 17th at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., it's the 5th annual Rancho Mirage Artist Studio Tour. This self-guided tour is some of the city's most prominent artist studios. Begins with registration here at City Hall at 10 a.m. and includes a pop-up art gallery showcasing additional artists. It's really been successful over the last few years, and we've had more and more artists join this tour. Finally, on Saturday, March 31st, from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., the Rancho Mirage Cultural Commission event will conclude with a bus tour to the city of Coachella to explore Coachella Walls. And this is art-driven community revitalization project designed to bring awareness to the history of this region. The bus tours have been of great success over the last few years. We invite you to come to sign up early. Space is limited to 50 individuals. Best thing yet about all of these events, they're free and open to the public, and there is gold card seating for Rancho Mirage residents and gold card holders. For registration and for more information on this terrific event, contact David Bryant at the library, or you can call here at the City Hall. And one last item, Mayor. One favorite team of yours is going to be playing
Here it comes.
tomorrow at 7 o'clock at Rancho Mirage High School And who's that? You know who that is?
Who is that?
That is the Rattlers.
Hey, hey, hey,
Go
hey,
Rattlers. So don't forget, tomorrow, 7 o'clock, the Rattlers are now in the second phase of the CIF playoffs. They've got tomorrow night, a couple of weeks after that, and we may see them go after the championship again. So it's a lot of fun. Bring your friends. It'll be 7 o'clock tomorrow. Bring your Rattlers too. So see you there. Thank you.
Going to have your
Mayor.
jacket?
Pardon me?
The jacket's going to be on?
The jacket will be
jacket
there.
will be there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. You know, Richard, it is amazing to think how far that school has come and all of the athletics that have gone on there in just a very few years. Really amazing, amazing thing.
Second year for seniors, and they've been competing against all the other schools up to that time with underclassmen. So they've got great teachers. They've got a great commitment from the kids who really go all out for their instructors. So
Oh, it's a beautiful school.
it is.
It's
We're
amazing.
lucky to have them there.
Yes, we are. Thank you. Mr. Dana?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From time to time, I'm asked why I oppose a bike path in Rancho Mirage. First thing you have to do is explain that the CV Link is not a bike path. It includes something like 14 to 16 feet of roadway material on which will be electric vehicles with speeds up to 25 miles per hour. So the bike path is an adjacent portion of that, but not nearly as large or compelling in sight and expense as is the path in the middle that has to be built to California roadway specifications. I've tried to explain to people that the reason our council turned it down was because we didn't want this 30-foot wide in total width of the CV Link. We didn't want this 30-foot wide project coming down our primary streets and roadways, including Highway 111, Bob Hope, and others. Then the third reason, which was in fact our first reason, going back to March 30th of 2015, is we weren't told how much our city would be burdened with respect to the costs for operations and maintenance. Operations and maintenance is a big part of any project, as we've learned. This is essentially in the same situation as the county just announced in the last day or two, that the John J. Benoit Detention Center in Indio, they had the money to build it, but they don't have the money to operate and maintain it. Well, that's what the CV Link is doing. The CV Link is spending probably well over $100 million now to build a project for which they do not have an operations and maintenance plan. Now, somebody might say, well, Dana, you know, they do. You know, you're just not talking about it, or you don't understand, that sort of thing. So for those people, I photocopied this morning page 15 of the master plan. You won't be able to see it, but that's what, if you find the 2016, the final master plan, and you go to page 15, you'll see these words in the upper right-hand corner, being a new subject. A funding plan for operations and maintenance is in development. Let me read that again now. We're talking about a project that has passed one thing or another, that's well on the way to being constructed, the CV Link, and they don't know how much it's going to cost each individual city, or if there's some other method of paying for the operations and maintenance. An amount, by the way, estimated by CVAG and way underestimated, according to many people, is that it's going to run at a minimum of about $1.5 million a year in the first year of operation, with accelerating expense because of cost of living increases, etc. So here we have the final master plan for the project. It's passed its environmental impact requirements. It's ready to go. And they say, with respect to operations and maintenance, 1.6 million the first year, 1.5 or 6. A funding plan for operations and maintenance is in development. That's what they were saying 3 years ago when Rancho Mirage said, we're not going to join the program by committing Rancho Mirage to a sum of money on an annual basis to maintain this project, regardless of whether we liked it or didn't like the project. We're not going to sign up for 75 to 100 years of maintenance on a project that our future city councils is going to have to deal with, our current and future residents are going to have to deal with. So we have not supported it. And the public voted 80% not to support CV Link. What is going on to pay for it is the following. They haven't told us. They've not made official announcements. But when I say they, I'm talking about CVAG, Coachella Valley Association of Governments, and their parent organization with the county, RCTC, Riverside County Transportation Commission. That is the top echelon, so I'll refer to them at the moment. RCTC, which sends its money to CV Link, or to CVAG for CV Link, they have initiated a survey, a telephone survey, and we have a Rancho Mirage resident who has heard it and who informed me of it. But they're conducting a survey to see if they can get an increase in our sales tax of 1/2 cent. They got an increase in our sales tax of 1/2 cent in 2002. They are now secretly talking about another sales tax increase. Well, they'll probably have some difficulty considering that the California gasoline tax of 12% or 12 cents a gallon, I think, goes into effect next week. And from what we hear, there will probably be a ballot measure that some organization is working on, according to what I've read, that will be trying to eliminate that 12-cent increase in gas tax. But at the same time, there will likely be on the ballot another opportunity for them to pay for the operations and maintenance of the CV Link in the form of another 1/2 cent increase in our sales tax. And they haven't told anybody about it. So I just wanted to start the ball rolling so that people will know that CV Link, after all this time, has no idea how they're going to pay for operations and maintenance. Every idea that they've floated has been shot down by one source or another. And now they're talking about imposing a tax on all residents, sales tax, on all residents in the Coachella Valley to pay for the CV Link, when not one resident outside of residents in Rancho Mirage and Indian Wells, not one has ever had even the opportunity to show whether they vote support or opposition to the CV Link. But those people, all of us, are going to be asked to pass that 1/2 cent sales tax increase. And much of that money, it will all be under the control, by the way, of RCTC, Riverside County Transportation Commission, just like the other 2002 sales tax increase is under the authority of the RCTC, which means once RCTC gets it, they funnel that money to CVAG as though it were water to save their lives. But nobody else is getting major chunks of that money because CV Link is eating up so much of it. Anyway, Mr. Mayor, that's what's the plan. And one of these days, you may hear about it, hopefully in the newspaper. They probably know about it, but I haven't seen them write anything about it. But it should be important news to the public that they have no idea how they're going to pay for this thing except tap the public with another tax increase. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dana. Mr. Ted.
Thank you. The primary goal of the City Council is to maintain and indeed strengthen the financial health of our city. In order for us to accomplish all of the things that we do, we have to have obviously a very strong financial base. And indeed we have that. Since our incorporation in 1973, it's quite remarkable that we have never, ever had anything but a balanced budget. I don't know if there are very many cities, not only in California, but in the country, that can make that statement. We have a tradition of sound financial management, and we're under constant threats that we face and actions we must take in an effort to ensuring the continuation of that tradition well into the future. I wanted to take a moment and comment about two very important items from recent council meetings. And there's the heart of our city. The year-end budget report that was presented at the October 19th council meeting and the lump sum payment of CalPERS pension liability that was approved at the November 2nd meeting. A lot of cities will use, frankly, a temporary Band-Aid. And when I say Band-Aid, it might last for a few years, but they can't continue to do this at all times. Some of the cities will increase the sales tax. Others will increase the TOT, the transient occupancy tax. And that can only last so long. One of the things that we pride ourselves on doing is not looking for quick fixes from an income standpoint, but we look at expenses, because that's the area that you should look at first, is how can you maintain and reduce expenses. Our excellent financial department reported a 2016-17 fiscal year-end general fund budget surplus of $4,772,790. In today's day and age, that is quite remarkable. I commend our financial department, Isaiah Hagerman, our #1 financial guy and head of the Administrative Services Department, and his staff have done a remarkable job. The careful approach that the city takes in its decision-making process is the key to all of this. Whether it be the consideration of a proposed project or program, or decisions on staffing needs, the financial impact of those decisions is always taken into consideration. Dana mentioned a few minutes ago about the CV Link and the lack of planning regarding the operations and maintenance. One of the things we always look at is how much is it going to cost us to maintain that asset now and into the future. When we look at the Rancho Mirage Community Park or the new observatory that's going to be extremely exciting, or the operation of our world-class library, we take into consideration what will it cost to operate those facilities, and frankly in a first-class manner. And we plug that in, there's line items, and we're fortunate to say, consequently, we have a surplus. This thoughtful approach has allowed us to have a balanced budget, as I say, since we were incorporated. At the November 2nd meeting, the council approved a $5,350,303 payment to CalPERS in order to bring the city's pension plans 100% funded. I've talked to a number of cities. Many times I'll ask, do you have an unfunded pension liability? And how much is it? The usual answer is, I know we do, but I don't know the amount. That's very common. And it's enough to throw a city into a terrible financial strait. I think that Isaiah Hagerman explained at one time that
International Exhibition Soccer, or
obviously my mechanical aptitude is low, that CalPERS has a formula that if they don't make a certain amount of money on their investments, it comes back in a punitive manner to the various cities. If we haven't paid that off, we would be penalized severely. Others that are not reducing their pension payments have them increasing over a period of time. And frankly, I look at other cities and I question how they'll ever be able to pay it off. The unfunded pension liability is something that every city is challenged with. The liabilities continue to grow as a result of lower than expected returns from CalPERS. And we know that we're faced with various costs that are going to be here now and into the future. One of the great things by reducing this to zero is that we have assured our employees that their pension and their future retirement is secure. And that makes us all extremely proud. We have a strong financial base, we have a strong financial city, and the objective of our city council is to keep it that way. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ted. Well done. Iris.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Ted, for mentioning all those good things about our city, about our staff. It's always good to sing the praises of our city and its workings and the staff members that make it all happen so seamlessly and keep us the beautiful city that we are. And moving on to some of the other beautiful things that our city provides, I wanted to mention a few things because this is really the busy season. It is upon us, and Rancho Mirage is certainly one of the busiest cities around. So I'd like to do just a bit of advertising for a couple of things. Number one is the 2018 Rancho Mirage Speaker Series. We have 3 great speakers again this year. The first one is going to be on Tuesday, January 30th. It's General Wesley Clark, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, presidential candidate, and author. Tuesday, February 27th is Laura Logan, television, radio journalist, war correspondent, chief foreign affairs correspondent for CBS News, and correspondent for CBS's 60 Minutes. And then on March 20th is the celebrity who actually lives in our desert here, Tab Hunter. I'm sure most of you remember Tab Hunter. I certainly do, and he was an actor, singer, best-selling author, and award-winning producer. So tickets went on sale November 1st. They've been selling extremely well, and we hope that if you are interested in attending our speaker series, that you will go online or call our office at 760-324-4511. Get more information and see how you can purchase tickets and enjoy these wonderful evenings of great entertainment and become more knowledgeable in these different fields. Another something I'd like to mention is because winter is almost here, and so are the fun programs and events at the Jocelyn Center. And as the executive director says, this is not your grandma's senior center. In fact, if I had another few hours in my day, I would certainly spend them at the Jocelyn Center. So drawing your attention to our screens, you will note some of the opportunities the Jocelyn offers for good health, good fun, and volunteering your time to vital causes whenever possible. The following slides will show some programs you may not know about and you may want to put on your calendar. And first of all, the Jocelyn Wellness Center. There are many programs offered, but these two can really be most helpful to a lot of people. The Adult Bereavement Group, which is a support group to all people who have experienced the death of someone close. Support is offered free of charge in a non-religious, safe, and caring environment. There is also a class on balance and exercise, which is designed to increase strength and reduce the fear of falling. It is an 8-week course, and participants learn to view falling and learn the fear of falling is controllable, especially with some specialized training and just a few changes in their environment. Social services are also offered, which provide outreach phone calls to homebound seniors needing additional weekly support and socialization. So if you know someone who needs an "Are you okay?" phone call from a friendly, caring voice, please let the Jocelyn Center know. We have got some wonderful people that make these phone calls just to keep in touch and let people know we care about them, and if they need some assistance with something, we'll direct them to the correct people. Also, if you want to become more proficient at your Apple iPad or iPhone, classes are available at beginner and intermediate levels where you can learn the basics and beyond in a supportive, relaxed, hands-on environment. And if your December is not already heavily booked, take a look at the fun activities planned by the center. Everything you could want for a field trip, including a chocolate decadence tour, visiting the Getty Museum, San Diego Seaport Village, a holiday gondola getaway, Christmas trees at the Reagan Library, the Grove and Farmers Market in Los Angeles, plus many, many more. And if you can't get away but love movies, there is still several movies available for viewing at the Jocelyn's Wednesday matinee movie program. They are shown in their large theater, and of course, admission is free. There is complimentary popcorn and lemonade, and of course, cartoons are also included. So, it doesn't get much better than that for keeping busy and entertained during the holiday season. And lastly, one of the most important programs at the Jocelyn is their Meals on Wheels home food distribution. There are two ways to get involved. They consist of preparing food at the Jocelyn Center on food delivery days or volunteering to drop off food items to the many people in need, which also may include pet foods. Either way, it's an incredibly rewarding experience, especially when very often the drivers are the only people these clients come in contact with for that entire day. And sometimes clients have not had contact with people for several days. So with the Jocelyn close by, no one should ever say they are bored or have nothing interesting going on in their lives. Just check out their website. Their schedule of activities is quite amazing and includes everything from, get this, aerobics, indoor and outdoor sports, bridge, bingo, learning a new language, new games, new instrument, or just brushing up on your singing, tap dancing, or artistry. And of course, the best part is meeting new friends or the chance to rekindle old friendships. So, do yourself a favor, put in some new life back in your life, and give the Jocelyn a call, 760-340-3220. That's 340-3220. Or check out their website, and you will be glad you did. And don't forget to bring a friend. They will also be glad you did. Thanks so much, and have a great holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris. Well, that's a great array of wonderful information by all of us. And what a great city this is and all the things that are going on.
Doesn't get any better, the
It
Rancho
just
Mirage.
amazes me to sit here and listen to all of this. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Now we will move on to approval of the regular minute meetings of November 2nd, 2017. Are there any corrections to those minutes? Anybody have any? All right, seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the November 2nd, 2017 regular city council meeting minutes as presented. May I have a second? May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Please vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Kite, would you please try your vote one more time?
Jeez, Richard.
Sorry.
It's the far button. They told me to tell you it's the far button.
Maybe there's a class at
Dana didn't
Jocelyn.
wake me up for my vote.
Okay, then we're having a technical difficulty. Mayor Pro Tem Kite, are you voting in favor of the minutes?
He's having technical difficulties too.
Then motion passes 4-0 with Councilmember Weil abstaining because he was absent from that meeting.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chris. Next is the consent calendar. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Randy Binder, our city manager. Randy, will you please introduce the consent?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. You have 6 items on your consent calendar this afternoon. Number 1 is to waive full reading of all ordinances or introduced or adopted pursuant to today's agenda. And if you don't want to approve that, we can have Isaiah Hagerman read each one. Item number 2 on your consent calendar.
One of these days, Randy, one of these days.
It's your prerogative.
Thank you. I'm thinking.
Item number 2 out of 6 on your consent calendar is second reading of an ordinance that you reviewed in detail at your last meeting regarding library board and the library and observatory board, changing the name of that board. Item number 3 on your consent calendar is second reading of an ordinance that would include the observatory in the behavior requirements of patrons at the library itself. Item number 4 on your consent calendar is approval of 2 SAS Special Assistance Fund Awards recommended by the subcommittee, consisting of Councilman Weil and Councilwoman Smotrich. One for $4,000 to Family YMCA of the Desert and one for $1,000 to the Rancho Mirage Women's Club. Item number 5 on your consent calendar, prepared by Joseph Carpenter, our finance manager, is your quarterly treasurer's report that is proposed for you to receive and file quarterly. Item number 6 on your consent calendar are demands, and we are here to answer any questions. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Are there any comments from the public or council comments on any of the consent items?
Move adoption of the consent agenda.
Please vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Kite, I think that your button is not working, so are you in favor of this motion? Aye, and we'll get that checked out. Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Chris. Now we'll move to public hearings.
I knew you'd break it.
And this is the general plan update. And we're going to turn this over to the one and only Jeremy Glein, Director of Development Services, will present this outstanding staff report. It's all yours, buddy.
Oh, that's a high
Thank
bar
you,
there.
Mayor. Thank you. Before I get started, just a couple comments. I'd like to thank, first and foremost, the General Plan Update Subcommittee, comprised of Mayor Pro Tem Kite and Council Member Hobart, for their guidance and support throughout this update process. I'd also like to thank our two consulting teams, Rincon Consultants, who is the primary general plan consultant, and also Terra Nova Planning and Research, who developed the arts and culture element for us. And then also, lastly, before we get started, I distributed a memo to council members before the meeting started. And basically, after the agenda packet and draft general plan went out last week, there were a few errors and typos that we just wanted to make sure got cleaned up as part of this. So just to make sure it's in the record. Nothing substantive, just typos. So with that, let's get started. Preliminary discussions about updating the city's general plan began in October of 2015. So this presentation represents the culmination of work that has occurred over the last 2 years. So needless to say, we're excited to be here to present this today. Very briefly, what is a general plan? In its most basic form, a general plan is a policy document that provides long-range planning direction for a city or county. Basically, it can be thought of as a blueprint for city development. General plans need to be updated periodically to ensure compliance with state laws, and also to ensure that the plan's guiding principles, its goals and policies, are consistent with the city's vision for long-term growth. Historically, Rancho Mirage has updated its general plan on roughly a 10-year cycle, with the last update occurring in 2005. So, what were the primary objectives of this general plan update? The first one was simply to ensure compliance with state laws that have been passed or adopted since the general plan was last updated in 2005. The Governor's Office of Planning and Research maintains a comprehensive and chronological list of laws that affect general plans. So the first one is pretty simple. We just go through that list to make sure that we've addressed those laws if they are applicable to Rancho Mirage. The second objective was to modernize the document both functionally and aesthetically. The third objective was to create a standalone arts and culture element. And the fourth objective was to develop an integrated GIS system. We talked briefly about how we achieved the first goal, so let's move on to objective number 2, modernizing the look and functionality of the general plan. So I'm going to play a slideshow while I discuss this objective, and these are pages taken directly from the updated general plan. So to accomplish the second goal, we created a new format and designed the document with a web-based user in mind. One of the major benefits to a web-based plan is that it provides users with access to much more than just the general plan itself. For instance, where the general plan talks about zoning and development standards, users will be provided with a link to the city's municipal code. Similarly, where specific plans, for instance, are mentioned, users will have the ability to view those separate specific plan documents from links within the general plan itself. So in essence, what you get is a singular document, this general plan document, that provides links and resources to a multitude of other documents and plans. So from this single document, you can really look at a multitude of different things. The most visible change is the appearance and presentation of the document itself. We migrated from an 8.5 by 11 format to an 11 by 17 format, so the document itself is just physically a little bit larger. And, you know, we designed the document to read more like a magazine or a periodical. So we wanted something that was graphically rich and visually interesting. So it's something, as somebody's just kind of flipping through the document, even if they're not really reading the stuff, it's just something interesting visually to look at. And we have such a rich collection of photos throughout the city that it was nice to be able to integrate those into this.
The photos were just beautiful, beautiful book.
So in sum, we wanted a document that retained all of the policy-related content that is necessary and important for long-term growth, but which presented the information in a visually striking way. All right. So next. The objective number 3 was to develop a dedicated arts and culture element, and same thing. I'm going to play some slides here while I talk about arts and culture. Arts and culture is a sub-element of the public services and facilities element in the current general plan, so the content was already there, just in a kind of a smaller fashion. During the interview process for general plan consultants, Terra Nova Planning and Research proposed to extract arts and culture from this element and make it a dedicated element of its own. And Rancho Mirage already has so much to offer in the realm of arts and culture that it seemed fitting to develop a general plan element that would provide the framework to protect and grow these important resources. And because it was Terra Nova's idea, they were asked to develop that element for us. Kind of an interesting side note or thing that came about with the development of this element was that it had direct connections to multiple other elements in the general plan. And arts and culture really does have the ability to influence and inform such things as land use, economic development, community design, and so on and so forth. So this became a fitting concluding element to the general plan because it talks about those things and just really ties everything together. So, thank you. The last objective number 4, was to develop an integrated GIS system. And can we launch that, Jason? Thank you. So just real briefly, Geographic Information System GIS stands for Geographic Information System. And what it is essentially is a way to display data in a map-based form. So what you're looking at right now is similar to any Google Maps, Google Earth type map, but where GIS becomes a powerful tool is in that you can create layers to showcase different information. So for instance, if we wanted to see specific plan areas, we turn that layer on and it highlights the specific plan areas throughout the city. And then if we open the legend, it will tell us what those specific plans are. And the real power comes when we create links to these specific plans from this GIS tool. So if somebody was interested in the Section 24 specific plan, they click on this link and that delivers them to that document. Another thing that's helpful with GIS is that you can search properties by address or parcel number. So Jason, if you wouldn't mind typing in just City Hall's address. So we can search parcels, and one of the other benefits is that if we click on this parcel, it brings up parcel-related information. And the nice thing is, one of the nice things is that they've linked this parcel data information to our municipal code. So we can see under here the land use category is institutional. Well, what does that mean? We can click on that. It'll deliver us to the municipal code where it talks about the development standards and essential like goals and whatnot regarding that. So becomes a very powerful tool, and this really doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of what GIS is capable of. But you can see it's a powerful tool that will help, the city and the public alike. So. It's going to be a huge benefit for the city moving forward. Can you go back to the slideshow, please? So this is the concluding slide in my presentation. And just to recap, we, number one, made sure that we complied with state laws that have been passed since the general plan was last updated. We modernized the functionality and look of the document. We developed a dedicated arts and culture element, and we developed an integrated GIS system, which I didn't mention, but there's no statutory requirement from the state that you have to develop a GIS tool with a general plan update. It's just something that was seen as a major benefit and something that the primary general plan consultant, Rincon, proposed with their submittal. So just a big benefit to the city. So with that, that concludes my presentation. Again, I'd like to thank the General Plan Update Subcommittee for their contributions, along with the consulting teams. So with that, based upon the content and findings in the staff report, the Planning Commission recommends that the City Council approve the general plan pursuant to the resolution and ordinance on page 7-1 of your agenda packet, and along with the memo that was distributed at the beginning of the meeting. Thanks again. I'd be happy to answer your questions, and the two consulting teams are also here if you have any questions of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. I do have a question. How is this accessed on a computer from your home? How do you go through that?
Yeah, so we're going to put a link to the general plan on the city's website, and it should be available by December 1st so that people can go onto the city's website, and we'll either have a link on the homepage or on the planning page, and people will have full access to the plan.
And they can do all this through their computer at home?
Yes, sir.
Wow, fantastic, unbelievable. Any other questions or comments from council?
Yeah, I do. Jeremy, you just did a fantastic job. This is really a remarkable plan. You know, I've been involved with the city 11 years between the Planning Commission and the City Council, past chairman of the Planning Commission, and have been in real estate my career. And I must tell you, in reading the general plan, as I did last night, and not all of it, I continue to learn things about the city and other details that are not apparent until you get into it even more. And so I just found it a great asset, extremely beneficial, and I applaud you and all of the people that worked on it. So congratulations.
You know, the other thing I found interesting was there's a page, if I've seen it correctly, that gives the predictions of the weather down through the years. You want to talk about that just a minute?
Yeah, so part of the update process is to address climate change, and so we have a graph in there that talks about extreme heat days and how in the future, based on current trends, they will basically go up quite drastically. It's a powerful graphic because it shows without changing the current trends, that there could be some issues that need resolving.
Yeah. Well, it's a wonderful treasure of information to a lot of subjects, to the environment, to the city, to the growth of the Coachella Valley. It's wonderful. Just congratulations to you and the company that worked with you on that too. Now I'm going to open it up to the public if they have any questions they'd like to ask on this subject. Nobody. And I'm going to turn it back to the City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
I just would like to add my congratulations also. It is really a work of art when you look through it, and it's such an educational tool, even for the people who are not doing any projects or development, just to glance through and see what our city consists of. It is quite remarkable that you've put this all together, and what's even more remarkable is that you did everything else that your job requires, because I know you have a full plate at all times. Thank you so much, and thank you to your entire team.
Very good.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I make a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I'm going to do it right now, Mr. Dana. Is there a motion to approve the general plan update, including
Yes.
revisions as listed in the memo distributed today?
Surprisingly, yes.
Well, I'll second it too.
I would move that we adopt Resolution 2017 next in order, approving the filing of an addendum of environmental impact pursuant to Section 15164 of CEQA, C-E-Q-A, and approving the general plan. That would be the first vote.
Very good, and there's a second from me. So everybody vote, please.
Motion passes 5-0.
Very good, thank you. We'll
And
now
the
move.
other half of that would be, I move that we adopt ordinance number next in order, amending the zoning map to be consistent with the general plan use map.
Second.
There you go. Please vote.
Can everyone other than the mayor, there we go, try your votes one more time. And motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Are we done with that one? We're done? Very
Mr.
good.
Mayor, can I just make one comment
Yes,
on
you
that?
may. For 10 years, we're done with it, right?
Except the housing element in 2022, I think.
Very good. Yes, Richard?
Just a brief comment. Dana and I served on this committee for about 2 years, and working with Jeremy really was an outstanding pleasure for both of us and the staff. Everybody was very well prepared, and the consultants did a great job. And it's just typical of the kind of work that our staff does here, and they should all be commended for the outstanding job.
I'll second that.
Very good. Very good. All right, moving along, we'll now move to the action calendar. Item number 8 is regarding the 2018 election, and I'm going to turn this over to Christy Ramos, City Clerk, will present the staff report. You're on.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. A general municipal election to elect 3 full 4-year term City Council members needs to be called, as the terms for 3 of the 5 Rancho Mirage City Council members expire in April of 2018. Historically, the city's general municipal elections have been held on the second Tuesday of April in even-numbered years. The Rancho Mirage Municipal Code authorizes the City Council to adopt a resolution to call and conduct a general municipal election wholly by mail ballots, provided the election does not coincide with a statewide or federal election. In all mail ballot elections, every registered voter receives a ballot by mail, but of course they are not precluded from voting in person or early. One advantage associated with all mail ballot elections is financial savings for the city, as the need to staff polling places is eliminated. Another advantage is voter convenience. Proposed Resolution A calls and provides notice of an all mail ballot election to be held on Tuesday, April 10th, 2018. Traditionally, the Riverside County Registrar of Voters Office has provided the necessary election services for most cities in Riverside County. The City of Rancho Mirage has retained the services of the Registrar's Office in past elections. The city's fiscal year 2017-2018 budget set aside $45,000 for the cost of the Registrar's services for the 2018 general municipal election. In order to retain the services of the Registrar's Office, a City Council adopted resolution requesting election services must be submitted to the Board of Supervisors for approval. Proposed Resolution B ensures the Board of Supervisors that the city will promptly reimburse the county for election services rendered by the Registrar's Office. Each candidate for City Council has the opportunity to prepare and submit a candidate statement to be included in the Voter Information Guide in accordance with California Elections Code regulations. Proposed Resolution C outlines these regulations and provides that the city will pay for the cost of printing a candidate statement in the Voter Information Guide. I recommend that you adopt the 3 resolutions listed as A, B, and C on Agenda Packet page 8-1. To summarize, Resolution A calls and provides notice of an all-mail ballot general municipal election to be held on Tuesday, April 10th, 2018. Resolution B requests that the Riverside County Board of Supervisors permits the Riverside County Registrar of Voters Office to render election services, and Resolution C approves regulations pertaining to candidate materials submitted to voters. That completes my report, and I welcome any questions you may have. Thank you.
Well done, Chrissy. Very good, very good. Are there any people in the audience who would like to ask questions about this item? All right, seeing none, I will ask council. Are there any items or questions on this?
I'll be glad to make a motion if your
right
honor
ahead.
would like that.
You would go right ahead. It's all yours.
The change we made a few years ago, going from regular ballots to mail ballots, really improved the whole system, I think, and we had higher voter turnout, plus it was cheaper than doing the regular polling places. So it's really worked out well for us, and I think a lot of the cities in the valley are looking at a similar system.
Very good. Dana.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move that the City Council adopt Resolution 2017 next in order, calling and providing notice of an all-mail ballot general municipal election pursuant to ordinance number 982 to be held on Tuesday, April 10, 2018 for the election of 3 Rancho Mirage City Council members for 3 4-year terms. I'd also move that we adopt Resolution Number 2017 next in order, requesting the Riverside County Board of Supervisors permit the Riverside County Registrar of Voters to render specified services to the city of Rancho Mirage for the city's general municipal election to be held on Tuesday, April 10, 2018. And finally, that we move to adopt Resolution 2017 next in order, adopting regulations for candidates for elective office pertaining to materials submitted to the voters for the general municipal election to be held on Tuesday, April 10, 2018.
I'll second that.
Will you please vote?
And motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is item number 9, is regarding a proposed street coordination project. I will turn it over to Mr. Randy Minder, who will do the honors.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Item number 9 on your agenda, as the Mayor mentioned, is a CVAG proposed regional traffic signal synchronization project, draft master plan, and a draft implementation agreement. I have some important comments to make, and I wrote them down, so please listen carefully.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Rancho Mirage has always been a forward-thinking city when it comes to our street system. We inherited from the county a basic framework of a street plan when the city incorporated in 1973. The county plan was fine for a time when this was what I would call a rural hamlet, but the county plan lacked specificity. The county street plan was appropriately, as some might say, applied county-wide. The street system simply followed the section lines every square mile. Someone in the county planning department, way over in the city of Riverside, decided that streets should be 66 or 88 feet wide, and that was that. As Rancho Mirage started to infill and grow, landowners, residents, and business persons began to realize the importance and long-lasting decision-making that was being made. They were being made by people far away. Or if the people were in the valley, they certainly were not looking out for those who invested in Rancho Mirage. Through no fault of their own, the people paid or elected in the Riverside County government had more obligations than simply what is best for Rancho Mirage. So in 1973, the city founders came together as a single entity to promote the concept most important to them, local control. Local control of land use decisions and zoning, local control of building heights, setbacks, open space, and landscape standards, preservation of the foothills of our Purple Mountains majesty, the views of the Santa Rosa Mountains. We are stewards of 8 square miles of rugged mountain land, the last remaining natural habitat for the endangered bighorn sheep, our city's enduring symbol. In 1973, the residents of Rancho Mirage incorporated as a city for local control. We decided that local residents could make decisions more to their satisfaction than the decisions made at the county level. We pulled out of the county's orbit, formed our own city, and with the county's okay, we established rules and regulations governing the conduct and economies of the city. One of the most important components of local control is our transportation and street system, how we get around. From the width of the streets to placement of our traffic signals, 54 to date, I think, to the RIAS mix, which RIAS is a type of asphalt we use, all of which is based on local control, including our signature 8-foot wide Class 1 meandering sidewalk. From the first adopted general plan to the comprehensive update that Jeremy Gleim just presented and that the City Council just approved, the city has kept its vision of itself pretty consistent. Low density, low rise, residential resort community served by successful upscale commercial development. Pursuant with state law, all general plans must contain at a minimum 7 basic elements. Elements is a term city planners use for chapters. Aside from the land use element, the next most important chapter is the circulation element. And Rancho Mirage has been vigilant in adhering to the vision and quality of life standards set by those who incorporated this community. It's this attention to detail that you and your staff are most proud of. Often, what are the most frequent compliments you might hear from residents and visitors in Rancho Mirage? I love your nice wide streets. I moved here to get away from congestion of the city. Traffic flows smooth here. Your landscape meeting islands are second to none. My point is, the basis of the quality of life our residents enjoy today is our street system, and our street system is controlled by our traffic signals. Now, we do not bury our heads in the sand or isolate ourselves from our neighbors when it comes to regionalism. Rancho Mirage is one of 9 cities in the valley. Our central location provides an economic incentive for the city's thriving business community. We know that streets do not dead end at our city limit lines. Rancho Mirage has been coordinating with Cathedral and City and Palm Desert for decades. We regularly and jointly plan street widths, traffic signal locations and timing, number of lanes, curb cuts, and so forth. You'll recall that we just completed more improvements on Monterey Avenue jointly with Palm Desert, including signals on our raised meeting islands. From the earliest times, we have worked closely with our neighboring cities. Regional cooperation has always been the city's position. The first regional plan to synchronize signals across the valley was approved in 2003, primarily for Highway 111. A central feature is that each city retains control of its signals. There has never been an argument among the cities regarding each city having the right to control the patterns within their boundaries, regardless of what their neighbors did or thought best. We never breached the independent prerogative of others. The degree of participation should be each city's prerogative. Remember, local control is the reason there are 487 incorporated cities in the state of California. We also know that transportation technology is changing rapidly. I'm referring to software and hardware for traffic signals. We have the ability now for signals to communicate with one another. We can work together with our surrounding communities to preserve and even increase the capacity of our roadways. I would submit that in this day and age, regional cooperation is not mutually exclusive of local control. We can do both. Our Public Works Director committed to working on a regional traffic signal synchronization plan through CVAG. After all, coordination and cooperation across jurisdictions is important to share traffic information, to accommodate special events, to manage traffic accidents, and other temporary hazards that may arise. What started basically as a signal synchronization effort has become a 10-volume project entitled Traffic Signal Interconnect Master Plan. The executive summary we've received from CVAG alone is 63 pages. The consultant hired, Advantech, I think is their name, did a superb job. The concepts outlined in the executive summary show promise. The focus of the plan is signal synchronization, but it goes much further than that, in that it sheds light on what the future may hold and how technology can be applied to traffic management. I believe the plan can be a useful tool for the city of Rancho Mirage, for all cities in the Coachella Valley. And that's really my point. While the plan was prepared with our region in mind, ultimately it's a prerogative of each city to implement the aspects of the plan they deem most important. Implement it consistent with our own unique general plans. So in your packet today is a draft agreement prepared by CVAG staff entitled Multi-Agency Participating Agreement. My purpose today is to receive direction from the City Council by confirming the city's position favoring regional cooperation while insisting on local control of our transportation system now and in the future. Time and population growth have altered the traffic dynamics for sure, but not now and probably not ever to the point that we would allow an outside agency to essentially take control of our roadway prerogatives. The residents of each city want and deserve the right to make essential decisions within the boundaries of their own city. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. City staff is here to listen to the policy directions of our City Council.
Thank you, Randy. Before we do that, I will open it up to public comments on this item. If anybody wishes to speak. All right, seeing none, I will close it back to the council. Anybody have any comments?
I have a couple of questions, and I tried to read through all the documents that we had presented to us, and it's a full-time job getting through them all. But, you know, one of the things we talked about today in dealing with CVAG and other entities is cost. Is there a cost to this program, and how much is it? And we're asked to, if there is a cost, and we pay for it, I mean, what are we getting for the dollar that Rancho Mirage pays for? So, you know, I think the purpose of this program and the cost of the program really need to be spelled out so we know exactly what we're looking at. And there are other issues that I'd like to bring up further as we go through this discussion. But I think in the very beginning, we've got to kind of look and see, you know, what's the purpose of this program and how does the city benefit from it?
Yes, thank you. That's a good comment.
If I could just respond to Richard's question, in the staff report that we received on the executive committee, prepared by CVAG, at page 23 of the overall staff report, one of the points that they make, it says another issue that signal synchronization subcommittee considered was how to ensure signals would be synchronized across the valley through all the jurisdictions. A key consideration was that regional transportation funds could be utilized to fund the necessary hardware and software. As you know, and people have to remember this because people aren't going to generally remember it, whenever CVAG refers to regional transportation funds, that's their code words for saying Measure A funds and TUMF funds. The money's contributed by builders bringing in new projects, TUMF. And so Measure A is one of the funds that they intend to examine. They haven't made any decisions yet, of course, but Measure A is one of the funds that they're looking at. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Dana. Any other comments? Ted?
No, other than Richard, Dana mentioned the proposed method of payment as to an amount. That has not been stated. There's been no specific number. So, like in so many things, at this point, no one actually knows.
One of the things that we do know, if the CVAG Transportation Committee staff report of, here it is, of November 6th, 2017, we do know that they intend to apply a lot of pressure to cities that don't fall in line with CVAG's overall project. I might say that when CVAG came up with this project a year or more ago, maybe a year and a half even, I don't know when it first got mentioned, they spoke in terms of the cities all becoming part of this. They haven't taken, they didn't send out any information to the individual cities suggesting that this was their goal and asking the cities to debate it in their own councils. There would have been no debate at all. This, as a matter of fact, was on the agenda for November 6th. And it came off, was taken off the agenda because of positions taken by the City of Rancho Mirage. But at any rate, in addition to not really talking about funding, I guess they're contemplating, aren't they, Randy, some federal money or some other organizational money coming in to fund at least the setup of the synchronization program?
Yes, that's right. They have federal and state funds and any additional tax increases that might come our way. The concern I would have is that that regional money should flow to the local jurisdictions so we can buy and operate and maintain the equipment so our signals can communicate with one another across city limit lines. And one of the comments in the plan, in the draft plan, is that perhaps those funds could be withheld as an incentive for cities to participate in the regional plan. I would like to go back to CVAG and say the cities will participate in the regional plan, but that a stick shouldn't be used to force participation in it. The specifications for the hardware and software should be consistent from one city to another, but should not be dictated to give control to a regional body to control the system, signal timing, or any other items that might come in the future for traffic technology.
It's gotten pretty nasty in some respects. I mean, their original presentation in the implementation document that was attached originally, I didn't say it by memory, maybe I could find it. They're saying, how do we deal if a city wants to not join and be committed to the overall program? What do we do? What are we going to do about it? And they're talking about withholding Measure A funds from our roads. You know, when we have projects, and once we get to the top of the TPS list, TIPS list, we should be funded with Measure A funds, regional Measure A funds. They're saying as a penalty for not joining and becoming a full-hearted member of the consenting cities, that cities that don't, such as, they were referring to Rancho Mirage because we've repeatedly taken that position with them. But they're saying if they don't, they should be denied Measure A funds. It's probably illegal, but it shows the mentality of what's going on at CVAG. It's like if anybody dares dissent from their ideas of building an empire, which is exactly what it is in my view, is building an empire for Tom Kirk and maintaining some of the same members of the executive committee all the way. They are willing to punish severely, economically, those cities that say, wait a second, we see it differently. We want to cooperate. We agree there's a need, but we're not going to turn over all of our authority to regulate our roads to CVAG or any group associated with CVAG coming out of the CVAG hierarchy. So it just seems that they're going to make it difficult for us to take an independent position, such as the city manager just outlined to us. And to that extent, we're going to have to decide, and I do have some motions prepared to submit to the council whenever it's appropriate, but we're going to have to decide whether or not we are going to allow ourselves to be pushed into a situation that where we give up the operation and maintenance of our own roadway with respect to synchronization. Some time ago, this matter, when it first came up at the CVAG meetings, I expressed immediately the position that the city of Rancho Mirage had expended something like $600,000 over a period of years for us to create our own synchronization system, and that we would not end up in a position where we had to cede control of our own program to CVAG or any affiliation with CVAG. We have always taken that position. We've made it clear. We've done it in writing. So they know that Rancho Mirage is taking a different approach, like we did with CV Link. We don't know for sure yet, but some of this roadway synchronization probably has something to do with CV Link 2. We'll find that out in the small print a long time from now. But Rancho Mirage, you can go through Rancho Mirage from either boundary going either way and make it with either no stops at signals or 1 or 2 probably maximum. Maybe in heavy traffic it might be a little different. But most of our residents are able to go through the whole city on Highway 111 without stopping for signals a good percentage of the time. But, and that's another reason why we don't want to give up what we've done. We're more than tickled to work with Palm Desert, work with Cathedral City on either side, and to work with CVAG. We believe that it's in the benefit of all to have a good synchronization program. But there's no reason in the world it has to be controlled by one man at the top or one group at the top. And that's what we're fighting for, independence of our position, and willing to become full participant. We just have to write the rules a little bit different. But if we can control our system in our city, we'll be happy. And that's not really that hard for us to achieve if we have people on the CVAG side who are willing to understand that others prefer that kind of independence from CVAG.
Thank you, Dana. Before I call for a motion, let's go through one more time. Richard?
Question for Randy. On page 9-8, talks about the CV Link connection. Can you just go into that a little bit more detail?
If I can go back to Councilman Hobart's comment for a second. I may be overly optimistic, but I feel that the city managers in the other cities, when I bring back our council's direction, that there will be consensus, or at least majority, that local control is the most important part of it, that the regional aspect should be limited to exchanging information and making sure that we have the same specifications for hardware and software. So from my standpoint, I'm going to go line by line through that draft agreement and make those changes, and I'm hopeful that we'll get consensus at the CVAG level. It's the cities that make up CVAG, and that's the important part.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you have that feeling or sense.
Maybe overly optimistic
about the others, yeah, because if you read the
take a run at
implementation agreement document, the way it was submitted by CVAG to us, it is clear that that is a poison pill for us.
Yeah.
Just going back to that one page, Randy, that CV Link connection, it seems like everything that is being planned ultimately for CVAG, by CVAG, CV Link, goes against good synchronization and good planning. It just seems like it compounds the problem. And so what they're proposing on one side really looks like a very strong negative for synchronization. It would eliminate the pluses of that kind of a program.
That's really a good point. It makes me think of what CVAG is telling people with respect to CV Link. They are telling them, follow the CV Link through Palm Desert until you get to Rancho Mirage. Then when you get to Rancho Mirage, take your bicycles or walking gear or jogging or whatever you're doing, and go down Highway 111. Go down any of these streets you want to go down because they're public streets. So you just go ahead and do all that. They have been vocal in making that position clear. Same thing with respect to users of CV Link who would be coming east, coming from Cathedral City into our city. And they have just taken essentially the righteous position that they can trample on us however the heck they want. and then reading the implementation agreement, they're wanting us to agree to it. Big chance that'll be.
All right. Ted, any comments?
Well, no, other than the fact that when this was presented at the November 6th CVAG Transportation Committee meeting, it was essentially presented with no background, and we were asked to approve it for it to be passed on to the executive committee. And as the city's representative, I obviously declined to do that and said that I was not empowered to do that without the review by our city attorney and our city council. And that's where we are today. For the first time, we've had an opportunity to review it, and I think that we've now discussed the point that the crux of the matter is that we will not do anything that relinquishes our city's control of the synchronization. We will fully cooperate. We believe in the concept, but we will not deem control to CVAG or another entity. And that basically is our bottom line.
Thank you, Ted. Iris?
I think the bottom line here, as Ted just reiterated, is control. And I know that in past experiences, we've seen a lot of items in which CVAG would like to take control. And I think that this is certainly something that our city has stood for with our own synchronization and the well-being of our own streets for all these years. So control is the magic key for me.
Thank you. Randy, anything else? Final?
I think I may have not mentioned that after the Transportation Committee meeting, where the majority of your cohorts agreed to forward it to the Executive Committee while accepting comments from the individual cities, the following Monday was when the Technical Advisory Committee, which is the city managers, got together, and I made some of the points that I had talked to you about regarding local control. And I made a motion to ask for the item to be tabled, continued until the January 8th TAC meeting, to allow us to take it back to our councils and get clarification and modification of some language. And all of the city managers agreed with that. And so at this time, I've been told by CVAG Executive Director that it will not appear on the Executive Committee agenda in December as originally envisioned, to move this thing forward quickly. So it's important that we get some clear direction from you today with some motions, so I can take that back to TAC and hopefully end up supporting the plan.
Will the executive committee continue this item?
It hasn't been placed on their agenda yet, but it was intended to be placed on their agenda. So
Probably.
Okay.
All right. You know, I just want to say that if you listen to what Randy said, what he was really trying to give you a picture of what the position of Rancho Mirage really is, and how, I'll use the word sacred, that we take the way we have directed the city and the way the city has directed in the past now, and we're looking for in the future. And that's what he was trying to say, and this is what everybody on this council is trying to look for. Not only for today, but for the future of the people who are going to be here before us, or will sit on this council. And these decisions are not taken lightly. So, with that, I will call for a motion. Mr. Dana.
I move that, I have four motions, Mr. Chairman. They'll be each separate.
Yes, sir.
I move that the City of Rancho Mirage shall maintain local control over its transportation system, including all of our signal synchronization and multimodal facilities. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, please vote.
Even those not in favor.
Even those not in favor, but I think everybody's going to
Motion.
be in favor. I got
Motion passes 5-0, but I did not catch the second, or I caught very many.
Richard.
Okay, thank you.
Next motion is I move that any signal synchronization program adopted by the city shall contain no punitive fiscal measures as penalties or inducements.
Second.
All right, please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Dana.
Next, I move, in response to motions made at CVAG Executive Committee meetings, the City Council hereby authorizes the city's Executive Committee member to vote for or take other action he or she determines is in the best interests of the city of Rancho Mirage.
Second.
Please vote. Ted seconded.
And finally, I move that City
What-
Council...
Wait a second, Dana.
One moment, I'm sorry. Councilmember Weil, can you try your vote one more time? And motion passes 5-0.
Very good, Dana.
I move that the City Council hereby appoints council members Hobart and Weil to the Rancho Mirage Traffic Synchronization Subcommittee to work with staff on evaluating CVAG's proposed synchronization program.
Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
That's all I have on that, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Dana, for doing that too. Wonderfully done. All right, we will move on now to, and thank you, Chrissy, you did a great job. Thank you. We'll move to closed sessions. I'll now turn the proceedings over to our closed session man, Mr. Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I announce the closed session, I just wanted to note that during the beekeeping discussion, while I was researching the provisions of surrounding cities, I stumbled across a provision in the Palm Desert Municipal Code that requires cats to be on a leash while they're outside.
What? What?
Be on a leash. Of 10 feet or less. Cats.
Steve, go back and
Kids?
repeat that again. You saw this.
So I was
here?
looking for the beekeeping provisions for surrounding cities. I stumbled across a provision in the Palm Desert Municipal Code that requires that cats be on a leash while they're outside.
Where do you get information like this but here?
Right here. And in response to the city manager's comments about what people love about Rancho Mirage, every time I come into Rancho Mirage, I say to myself, I love Rancho Mirage because of the prophylactic, emulsified, rubberized crack filler sealant it uses on its streets, which make for one smooth ride. Okay, onward.
I thought you were going to say you come into Rancho Mirage and you think, boy, I'm sure glad I'm the attorney here.
Oh, no. Well, one thing I don't say is you're pretty. In any event, so the city council at this point is going to recess into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 regarding 3 potential initiation of litigation items and the case known as Veronica Juarez versus the city of Rancho Mirage.
Very good. Thank you, Steve. And as I always say before I close and go into recess, thank you for being here in person. Thank you for watching us out there on TV land. And have a very happy Thanksgiving to everyone. We are adjourned into closed session.